So one of my commenters brought up something extremely interesting. Shout out to Flying Spaghetti Auditor for coming up with this idea. And that's adding a whole nother part of the game that takes place during the 7 year time skip with Sheik. What was Sheik doing during those times? Also, what is Sheik doing Link's quest? And so the thought was that they expand the game and add a whole nother part to it, maybe after you finish the first quest, or they add a DLC about Sheik and what Sheik does during Link's time. Now, one thing we can look to for inspiration to this is Resident Evil 4's Separate Ways DLC. This is some of the best DLC. I mean, first of all, Resident Evil 4 is one of the best remakes ever made. Secondly, the DLC Separate Ways is absolutely amazing, which follows Ada Wong's story and what takes place during Leon's mission as well. And it kind of interloops, right? It just shows Ada's portion of it during that whole sequence. And honestly, I think there's tons of untapped potential here to really go into what happens to Sheik. Sheik is already one of the most popular characters in the Zelda universe. Starting with Super Smash Bros., right? They introduced Sheik into Smash Bros., I think in Melee, as one of the 3 or 4, I think it was, 4 Zelda playable characters, right? You got Link, Ganon, Sheik, and Zelda. So with Sheik's popularity, I think it would just be a huge missed opportunity not to include some kind of portion where you can play as Sheik during the time skip, or if not during the time skip, during Link's quest, right? Like we cross paths with Sheik so many times during the main quest in Ocarina of Time, and it just leaves so many unanswered questions as to what could have been happening during that time. I think if you expanded the game with a Sheik quest or did a Sheik DLC, there's just so much you could do with it, right? Sheik could have a separate moveset, right? More mobility. In the game, we see Sheik doing all kinds of stunts, right? Whether she's just jumping up onto the tree and just doing a huge dive into Lake Hylia, or flash banging Link and just taking off without a trace. There's so much opportunity there, really. And you think about it, you could have all new weapons for Sheik, right? You could have missions that emphasize stealth, some that emphasize combat. You could just have a really like a stealth ninja type gameplay, which I think would really complement Link's sword and board style of gameplay, like the hidden weight style of combat, right? You could do something completely different with Sheik to offset that. And when we get into the lore, we could really go into the story of what happened to Zelda during the 7 year time skip, right? When she evades Ganon after Link collects all the spiritual stones. Like, where did Zelda actually go with Impa? There's a pretty good YouTube video out, somebody put out. I forget the name of the channel that covers what happened to Zelda during the 7 year time skip, and some of the theories on where they might be hiding. But it would be interesting if they went back and fully fleshed out that lore. Because it's one of Zelda Ocarina of Time's biggest mysteries is what happened to Zelda during the 7 year time skip. How did she become Sheik, and what kind of training did she endure with Impa to really reach that level of proficiency, right? And she almost has a ninja-like way about her, to be honest. She excels in espionage and acrobatics and aerobatics. So it'd be really interesting to see, in the game they could go through how Zelda becomes Sheik and the training she goes through, right? That could be like a prologue, right? So let's say the prologue is the 7 year time skip and the training with Impa, and it also covers like where she was hiding and how she evaded Ganon all these years. Okay. And then maybe there's like a sequence break or a time skip, and she's an adult playing and then you're again playing as Sheik, right? Fully trained, and you go through a quest parallel with Link, right? When he's on his main quest, that kind of interloops with the original Ocarina of Time quest, but it has separate missions, right? Separate dungeons, separate playable areas, and it expands on Hyrule. That would be really interesting. Now, obviously, this isn't something Nintendo's going to do. I mean, we can only dream, right? But I think, it'd definitely be a huge missed opportunity if they didn't do something like this. Honestly, this would just print money. This is an absolute gold-mined idea right here, if I'm being honest. So, I mean, it's just for fun. Don't take it too seriously. But, there's more to talk about when it comes to this. Ideally, I'd like them to just add something like this to the game instead of it be a paid ad on DLC. But you know how they are with money. They might actually pull something like that off. So we'll see. Again, this is probably not likely to happen, but would definitely be interesting. And then with Sheik's instrument, you could have her have the harp that she plays in the game versus the ocarina, and you could have access to some of the same songs Link does. But you could also add some additional ones to maybe warp to additional dungeons or areas that only Sheik could explore. or only Sheik could reach due to their movement abilities. That would be pretty neat. With Ocarina, I love the emphasis on instruments. You could just carry that forward, right? Keep the instruments with Sheik going. That would be pretty sweet. And with Sheik, right, if they did a Sheik game, you could expand upon the lore of the 7 sages, right? We know Zelda's one of the sages, but say the 6 sages, right? You could expand upon the lore of the sages and kind of go through in depth what was happening during the time skip, how the sages awaken, and ultimately how they, ended up falling in the game. And you can kind of show each region of Hyrule falling one by one as you go through the quest. I mean, the possibilities for this game are pretty much endless. If they announced something like this, I would almost be more excited for playing this than the actual main story of Ocarina of Time as a remake. This is a completely fresh idea, and I think it's something that's would only serve to enhance the Zelda universe for one, right? And Sheik is just so popular, but then you think about how well done the Resident Evil 4 Separate Ways DLC is, right? And how it just builds so much character for Ada, right? Well, they could do the same thing with Sheik in this one, and I think they should do it, honestly. Now, the more that I talk about this, the more just brilliant it sounds. Again, shout out to the Flying Spaghetti Auditor for coming up with this idea. This is totally awesome and something I probably wouldn't have thought of myself, but it'd be pretty cool. So essentially it'd be a blend of like Metal Gear Solid, Assassin's Creed, Sekiro, all combined with Ocarina of Time to create a pretty interesting concept. I think it would be something I'd definitely want to play personally. And then the recap, there's a couple ways you could do this game, right? You could have it set, it could take place entirely during the 7-year time skip in the fall of Hyrule. When Link's asleep in the Sacred Realm, right? You start off as young Zelda. You could time skip into your training, and then you become an adult, right? And you go through a whole quest that way. Okay, or you could either do the first part's the initial training with Impa as Sheik, and then it jumps forward to Link, right, when he's an adult, and then you're playing in a quest that coincides parallel with the Ocarina of Time main quest, and it shows all the stuff that Sheik's doing behind the scenes. Either one of those would honestly work for a potential Sheik spin-off game, DLC, or story edition. Yeah, I think that'd be awesome. Anyways, guys, if you like this idea, please drop a like, share, and comment below. Let me know your thoughts on this. Would you like to see a Sheik spin-off, DLC, story expansion? Honestly, I would, and I'd be curious to hear your guys' take and what should happen if that game were ever to become a reality. I'll take a second to say that I'm trying to reach 1,000 subs by the end of the summer. So if you haven't already and you enjoy this content, please do consider subscribing. I think I've already added 250 subscribers in the last 22 days. So again, thank you so much for all the support. I'm overwhelmed by it. Honestly, I can't thank you guys enough. And as always, I have more Ocarina of Time to come. This is probably my last video for the week, but I'll definitely be returning with a few videos and some shorts next week. So keep your eyes peeled for those. All right, guys, until next time, this has been Matt from Top Tier. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. I'm out. Bye.